Hi, y'all. I'm Sophia,
And I'm Rain.
and this is BLteatime, where we just talk about anything BL and all the good tea that comes with it. Today, we have a very special guest with us.
Hi, I'm Janna. I'm lgbtanimes on TikTok, and I'm really surprised that there's people who actually know me because I forget that I do be posting out in public, and then I pretend that I wasn't there after a bit, and I forget.
Yeah, I mean, like you get some good views out there.
Oh my god, like I didn't realize how blown up it got until my real life friend started tagging me on Facebook and said, "Hey, isn't that you?" And I was
Oh,
like,
wow. Oh, you've made it all the way to Facebook. On our first episode, we told the story of like how we got into yaoi, and I feel like everybody has like, or yaoi or BL, and I feel like everybody has like an interesting story of how they got in it. So we would like to ask you, how did you find, discover, get into BL and yaoi and such?
so interestingly enough, it was in my elementary school library. It was a manga. I don't remember the manga's name. Yeah, it was in my elementary school library, and I was like maybe I think 4th or 5th grade. It was a very interesting experience because around in that time, I've always been very questionable about my interests in people. For example, I am into girls, so I can openly say yes, I am lesbian. And so I didn't understand why I was more into like females than males at that time. So I always had a very interestingly like attraction, and I didn't feel like it was right, and I thought it was just a friendship thing. So when I saw there was a BL manga in our school library, and I picked it out. I didn't think much of it. It was just a manga that was just sitting there in the library, and I was like, "Ooh, picture book!"
Exactly.
And yeah, and then I look at it and I'm like, "Wait a minute, these are both boys," and it wasn't a feeling of shock or disgust. It was more of comfort because I was like, "Oh, so two of the same like gender, boy, girl, can like each other." That was my initial thought. And at that time, there weren't many queer stories in American like literature, and if you're in an elementary grade school, you will definitely not see any that's like queer themed.
That's why I'm surprised you even found that at elementary school.
Because like mangas, like interestingly enough, like because there's that weird thought process, it's just a picture book to the librarian, they just put it out, right? Whatever they get, they put it out into the shelves. And then while actual English text, they can tell, and they will try to separate it from, you know, the younger group so that it's not considered as like inappropriate material for children to read, right? So it was just sitting there, and I took it, and it was just a beginning of like, oh, so, and then after that I started to dig more, and I was like, that's how I started like my interest in anime and in general because of that one manga. And it wasn't the first manga I've ever read, obviously, but it was one of the first mangas where I was like, oh my god, so people of the same gender can like each other and it can have a story. And then after that I got into it. I really liked it, and I liked the stories, the plot lines, and it was very, very, very relatable because I'm from a Asian household, and my parents are desi, so oftentimes some of the tropes in there are very closely hitting home. So I prefer reading like these Asian backstories in these mangas compared to a lot of the English Americanized stories, because Americanized stories don't really showcase the scary parts of being like an Asian LGBT.
Yeah, I see that a lot where I'm just like, you know, your stories where they have to like hide it a lot. They can't like, you know, be open, and they when they go like to the store or something like that. Like I was just like, yeah, that's like real over there. Like, you know, over here you'll have your people like, you know, look at you. Hopefully you don't have any kind of crime against you. Like more often than not, you're just gonna have people look at you and keep it going. But like over there, like your whole family would just drop you or something like that. And I was just like,
yeah.
gosh.
Like I know that experiences here are also like in a westernized culture is also bad pretty much, because like there's a lot oftentimes where you can get kicked out and stuff, you know, for coming out. And then there is that, but then there's that like specific, like as a Desi Muslim, like being queer is basically asking to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
um,
scary.
but that's why like reading BL and then of course GL, because I discovered BL before GL. And
I feel like most people do.
yeah, and then after reading both of those genres, I just feel like it's a sense of comfort, like it's my comfort space, because it's something that reminds me, like even if the story is like really bad or good, it's still a story that features two of the same gender that I can relate to, because it's like there's always going to be that depiction where they mention like, oh, but we're both guys, oh, but we're both girls, and it hits hard,
It
because
hits
I know
home.
yeah, I know a lot of people don't sometimes think about it, sometimes they skip over, but I always notice that in mangas whenever they mention it, because it's like, when will there be a time period where you don't need to think about that, you know?
Yeah.
But most of the time you still think about it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point.
I was gonna say it's really nice that you see the comfort in it, because I definitely didn't think about it before as well, because I'm kind of in like a similar suit where it's like I'm from a Hispanic household. So it's definitely just like, I personally have never told my family that I am bisexual, and I go both ways, but sometimes I lean more towards girls, sometimes I lean more towards guys. But I feel like I get what you mean when you say when you read these stories, it's like the same thing. Like you can relate to the characters, you find comfort, because like more times than not, the story will normally end up with the characters together and they're happy. And it's just like, you can kind of see yourself in that situation as well. Like, I will find that person myself, and then we can have a happy ending, even if
Yeah.
like not everyone supports it.
And like, oh, sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
And like, you know, some stories, like some of them are just fun to read, some of them are just stupidly written and funny to make fun of, you know, because like at the end of the day, it's just nice seeing there's a lot of more same-sex content, regardless like who makes it, or who or how it's sometimes written. Like at the end of the day, it's your personal like preference, how you read it, how you describe it, and it's a sense of community. And it just makes it pushes for more of like normalizing there's more stories where there's same gendered characters liking each other, same sex relationships being normal, because there's a lot of like hetero mangas and hetero stories and hetero plot lines, and so it's like, okay, like, I want something else, you know, something that I can see myself and picture myself in, because like oftentimes there's a lot of like, for example, shonen animes, right? There's always going to be that canonical hetero pairing that's at the end, and I'm like, you know, sometimes we don't need to have something to be always romance. What about like an action-packed story where you have the main leads being in a MLM relationship, or in a WLW relationship? Like, it doesn't have to be the main focus. I just like the idea that, oh, there's a possibility where you have queer characters and queer relationships in a story that's not always surrounded by romance, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like I'm the only one where it wasn't necessarily, it is a comfort, but at the same time, it's just like, even growing up, I've loved anything that had any kind of gay representation, even before I even realized what necessarily gay, lesbian, LGBT, like any of that stuff. It was just like comforting to me. I don't know if that was like my inner gay, just being like, you'll like this later. But like it, so when I found like BL and stuff like that, I was like, I guess I was more happy that there was such a such a huge amount of it, because like growing up, I would, you know, try to find any like movie. I would watch like seasons of a show just to see like one gay kiss that happens for like 5 seconds in season 7. Like I would just be like, I just wanted that kind of content because I wanted to, again, like back in the day before I really realized, I guess I wanted to see me in some, you know, form or fashion.
Exactly. I feel you in that.
Not, yeah.
Cause
go
like,
ahead.
Oh, because like I'm from like my household is very like, you know, heteronormative, and every time we look around, it's always about like, oh, this guy, this girl, this guy, this girl, and then it was just a sense of like breaking free from the heteronormativity that we're surrounded by. Because like I can't believe I used to like let heteros tell me that, oh, just there's enough, that's enough gay representation, you have two couples in there, that's enough. And like I would think in the back of my head, maybe they're right, but then you never see people complain, oh, that's so much straight stuff, you know.
Exactly.
It's always pushing the narrative of that heteros are the default. That's why I try, like, it's more of like a meme kind of way of pushing away from hets and be like, yeah, I like content that's more of LGBT rep. And LGBT rep is not alone about ships or anything. It's also about having trans characters, as well as having non-binary characters, as well as having you know, trans women or trans men in relationships. Like, those are the reps that I want more of. And yet people think that, oh, one gay couple in a show is enough of a representation, and they're like, you got it, now be quiet. Then
that's and that would bother me, just because I was just like, I would hate when it'd be like a show that was like something like romancy, like maybe something like Vampire Diaries or something like that, where it's like a bunch of like different couples within the show, all of them straight, all of them have their dramas, but they always just had that like one token gay who we sometimes came back to, sometimes talked about their relationship, not really most of the time, like you would sometimes see them with another person and we just not talk about it. And I was just like, I want to know what that character's doing.
Yeah, like, where's his depth, where's his storyline? Because just having them stand there and, or having them, you know, use slang and say that's your rep there, that's why BL, like, there's such a variety. Like I never understood the people complaining about BL when back then, like when I was you know, in my grade school, American material did not really have much of a depth with queer material, and wasn't even like reachable for children either, because there was that stupid stigma taboo that the idea of having same sex is considered adult and kids can't know about it, but they can know about straight parents and straight people and straight whatever. And so now watching, like, as the years go by, seeing more BL or just overall LGBT content being produced is very relieving, because back then I never had that privilege. And back then a lot of BLs were also very, in a sense, problematic in its own way.
Oh yes,
I could agree. And some of the stories were really ugly. Like and which is why I dropped BL for like 4 to 5 years until 2016, 2017. Lezen Comics started releasing theirs, and the first, I think, story I've seen promoted by Lezen Comics was A Guy Like You. And then I'm like, oh, and what is this? And I got like all of my like childhood being slapped back, and I'm like, whoa. And a lot of the newer stories in the BL genre are so much more improved than compared to back then. Like, people are complaining now. Like, sweetie, if you were there back then.
Yeah, because like when I first got into it, like I didn't realize that I could read like a lot of them, so I didn't read a lot of them. I was just looking for like any animes or like OVAs or anything. So all of them are like 90s or like early 2000s. A lot of them are I should have not been looking at that. Just problematic. just so. And like I read stories today, and when those kind of topics come by, because like that's a topic I like to talk about. It's just like, yes, there's toxic stuff in these stories. Who says that I read them? So it's like, now when I see like those kinds of traits or something, I would just drop the story. There's so much content now. I don't need to like rely. But like I don't have to be like, oh, there's not that many stories, I guess I'll just read it just to see where it's going. I'm like, no, I don't like this topic. I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna read something I want to read.
I agree. Like, now we have a variety. Back then it was more like, okay, this is what I get, so this is what I'm stuck with.
Exactly.
And like, even if stories have controversial material, as long as you as a consumer knows and is aware or know how to like handle the material, then it is going to flow in its sense. Like there's some people where a killing stock is not a BL or a yaoi or anything, but the way people handle their relationship in a sense where they start to try to romanticize it, you can tell that the individual themselves is doing something problematic, but the story and the creator themselves did a fabulous job in creating a horror and making you on edge of your seat. So that's why it's like there's some stories that are bad, there's some stories that are good, and now we have a variety, and now you can formulate opinions. At the end of the day, it is the responsibility of you as an individual on how you read and consume the material and how you react to it, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like some people don't, I guess because me and Sophia, like, we're film majors, we write stories, we understand what it takes to write a story. I understand you could talk about dark topics. I don't feel like people understand that you can talk about, I don't want to say it because I just, trigger warning and stuff like that, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You can write that into a story, but to me, it's where the author takes the story. Is it just going to be?
I agree.
Is it just going to be like pushed over? We're not going to talk about it. That disturbs me. I don't like that. Those are stories I drop. Are we going to handle this? Is there going to be confrontation? Is this person either going to get their ass beat or are they going to prison? Like one of them. Like I need something. Like it all depends on where the author takes that. But I feel like some people see that it's in there and they're like, nope, you can't talk about it. I'm like, when you write a story, you want to write. Some people want to write more realistic horror. This is a horror for some people, and they want to write about that. So put that in the light. But you can't just see it and be like, nope, you can't read that. Nope.
I agree. It's more it depends on like the depth, the how the content is placed before you can actually opinionate on it. Because if it's just you glancing at once and then shutting it off, it's frustrating because there's some people who have experienced that. So it's like you don't want to hear the experience of the story of a person who's actually gone through it. That's what it shows me. And I've been in situations in my past, so like oftentimes I relate to some of this, a lot of the material. And so it's more of a sense for me to read and I want to know where it goes, because if I couldn't change my past, can the story change this past? How does the author depict it,
Exactly.
And it really does depend on the individual themselves and how they consume the material, and as well as the author and how they cater the material. And like I love reading anything. I just like a story with depth, with content and characters with depth. That's why a lot of the BL now is BL, because these characters have more depth to them. They have more story, and they draw on so fine.
You ain't ever told no lies. Sometimes you just be like, the story kind of dumb, but it looked pretty.
I know. Oh my god, some of the stories out there, they just straight up have pretty privilege.
They do.
I hate myself because I'd be like, nah, this is shit. But I'm still reading it.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about, a story. I read it, Sophia has it. It's called Love or Hate. I think you know about it.
Oh yeah.
I can't stand that story. I really don't like that story that much. But God, it's so pretty. And I'm just like, I just need to know what happens and then I'll probably drop it. But I'm just like,
that's how it keeps you on edge. Like, okay, I liked Love or Hate because it's complex, but I think it's more like the fan base on how they react to it, which is kind of funny for me because I'm more on the middle, so I'm just reading to just see what the hell happens.
Yeah,
while
me too,
the
honestly.
fandom is on each other's throat. Oh my god, my Twitter timeline, constant fighting between Ju-on stands and Taku stands, constant fighting, and I'm like, y'all.
I'm just like, pick one already so I can know, and I just need to know at this point. I don't care for either one, to be honest with you.
I just hope Kisu gets therapy, and you know what? Maybe he shouldn't have either of them. Exactly. And they should all get like help, because I personally can't hate each of the characters because I see a reflection of someone I know that has gone through those situations. So it's difficult for me to hate any of them, but I do dislike their behaviors. But at the end of the day, I just think they need therapy.
But it's so pretty.
So pretty, it is. It's such a good art style.
Sophia, you want to ask the next question?
Okay. So next question is just going to be, what are your favorite stories? Like, what stories do you always find yourself like rereading and that you wish more people would read as well?
Okay, there's a good few. Okay, I was gonna say Dear Dora, but that that is you need to read it from the official site and official translations to understand it better. And I know it's confusing for some people, and that melanin man sexy as fuck. Oh, I cursed. Can I do that? Okay.
Oh yeah, no, it's fine.
No. Okay.
Oh yeah, curse all you want to. I don't care.
Okay, because he fun as hell. And I like any story basically where both of the characters have a very convincing, beautiful relationship at the end, or they have some sort of like twisted beginning, but they know how to control it and show plot development. Like I really like Dear Door because my man's fun as hell, and I like the whole shonen theme. It's like a very shonen action theme, and it's gay, wonderful, fantastic. Another one that I really liked, remembering things by name is like the worst.
Oh yeah, we always have that problem too. Like if you show me the picture, I'm like, yeah, I read that, but like to just think of the name.
Oh God, hold up. This is the one I talked about. It's a manga, and it's an Omegaverse manga, and it's so good, so good.
You want to tell us some of the plot? Maybe
yeah,
we've
I'm
read
trying
it.
to remember it. Like, okay, so basically one of the characters, he went through a very triggering past in high school, and he had a kid. And
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. I knew that was the one.
Okay, so
I can't remember the name of it either.
So I cried. Like, and then he meets this alpha who is very, very strong-willed and can actually stop himself. And he cares about his partner so much. Like in the 2 volumes, first volume was a very great like introduction, and then understanding the backstory of the character, and then the second volume was a great resolution to it, and parenting and everything. Oh my God, I cried. One of my favorite stories, because instead of having a character that just kind of like, you know, brushes off the traumatic past, he took ownership of it. And he and his partner was supportive and was this one quote where he was like, I could hit you, but this hand is meant for like the people I love. And I was like, oh
yeah, one of my favorite scenes from that one is the like one of the last scenes where the alpha was, it was like right after he proposed, and he looked at the little girl and he was like, can I be your dad? And she was like, you were always my dad.
Dude, every time I think about it, I tear up because it was so good. Like, yeah.
I love that story. Like it kind of brings tears to your eyes, but like good tears.
Yes, so good. I will never get over it. I was in love with that story because like I cried. Like I saw, because like for me it was a very, very, very hitting close to home story. Anything with family and parenting hits hardest. So those are my favorite stories. I think another one that I really liked, Blood Bank. Blood Bank is very nostalgic because it was one of the first Bloods comics that I read and purchased. And there's a lot actually that I really
I mean, like it's a very hard question. Indeed.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like dragging it on, but yeah,
especially when you've been reading for years, is like the list goes on and on at this point.
Our companionship. This is the one I recently talked about.
That's the one I saw you talk about, and I literally that night I finished all of it. Oh, whatever they had, because I was watching your video and I was like, I usually hate TikTok recommendations because like they always tell me something I've read before or is trash. But I saw that one and I was like, hold on, she may be onto something.
Oh, yes, our companion. Oh my God, that man built as fuck and he nice as hell. Like beautiful. That watermelon steak energy. So, but yes, basically Biting the Tiger. Biting the Tiger is another one of my favorites. Oh yeah. I really love stories that were both of the parties and in the relationship are just very strongly bonded. So basically anything of that sort. I do have other favorites where it's kind of like a little questionable for people. For example, Painter of the Night. Painter of the Night, I understand from both aspects. But for me, what I liked about the story was how paced it was, because it's not a fast development. Because like Sung Ho is a lord, and he is in a time period where his actions are considered as normal. So if you know, like from our history, a lot of times a lot of lords and a lot of like presidents and etc. did so much crimes and etc. And it was just considered as normal in their time period. So seeing Sung Ho develop a sense of affection or actually question his own acts is like a very, very big game changer for a lord. So it's really interesting for me. And I like understanding the psyche behind his actions. I still think at sometimes I think Sung Ho's an ass, but
most definitely.
yeah, I definitely think he's like he had a shitty way of representing his emotions, but at the same time it's like I know men that are like that, and they don't want to change. It takes them years to actually develop a sense of emotion. Seeing Sung Ho have change in him and question himself and actually ask himself what is he doing, constant repetitive thoughts between himself and trying to understand why he feels the way he is, it's an interesting take. And seeing Nakyum in a position where he's just really sad hurts. I like feeling pain when I read. So
that's me.
You're just like Sophia.
I will actively go down the tragedy tag or the eggs tag to look for something sad.
Same.
My heart can't always take it.
Like, that tragedy tag. I love looking through it. I like feeling like trash. Oh, another one that I really liked, Stigma. Stigma. If you haven't read it, you should. It's more of an Americanized setting.
What's that one again? It sounds familiar.
It's where there's like an Asian man, and I'm pretty sure the other guy, he's white, and there's also like they're in a community that's very diverse with like I think Latinx, Black people as well as white people, but it's Asian man. The Asian man in the story was a minority. It is a minority in that setting, and it brings out the realism of like racism towards a very minor group, as well as discussing how sometimes some people with their past traumas, how they end up hypersexualizing themselves, or people with past traumas or have and they end up trying to save everyone because of what happened in the past. Very good in that stance. And
I think I read that one. Was there like a character who had dreads? I don't know if that's there was like a side character with dreads. Was like the tall one blonde?
I think
I might have read this one.
It's all like black and white, and the cover is black and white. Yeah. A very interesting story. Like for me, I really like stories that are just very realistic. And my For You page, ironically enough, even though I'm a anime TikTok account, it's always like political issues as well as like issues on race and racism and everything. There goes my mic. Whoops. And so I'm always balanced and like being able to reflect both in BL stories that talk about and discuss this, while also being very up to date. And it helps me because my brain, it's hard for me to like divulge into multiple things at once. I have to do them each in separate. So having that sense of communal like overlap, it helps me a lot. And it's very interesting, like very interesting. I love stories that just have very depth and contextual material that makes you think and can reflect. And I do read some trashy stories too, just to clown it. But at the end of the day, I just want to read something that just makes me cry. I love crying like a bitch. So
that's us whenever we watch we like a lot of Thai BL dramas.
Oh yes.
And sometimes we're just looking for something that will just like
tear you up inside.
We watch It Till We Meet Again, and we were just
I know that one.
We were just watching it. We were sending Snapchats back and forth of us just covered in tears. Like, did you make it to episode 16 yet? Get ready.
Yes, as well as like Thai BL. Okay, so back then in American media, there wasn't that many like greatly represented queer media.
Mm-hmm.
So Thai BLs, Chinese BLs, well introduced like an Asian backstory, Asian lifestyle, and same-sex relationship, which was really surprising for me because oftentimes these countries are seen as very conservative countries. So seeing them have these types of films more than America, which is apparently supposed to be, you know, home of the brave and freedom and everyone's accepted, but what we get is Riverdale being hyped up. And so while you have amazing content that's produced outside of America, and there were some Thai BLs that I absolutely loved and like can actually relate to and can actually enjoy and see a depth in character and story and etc. While oftentimes a lot of the queer films that we get are so rare in America, in American English setting.
Most definitely.
Like, how many times do I have to see like us be so excited because a Hollywood film decides to have a gay film?
One of the letters from the LGBTQ.
Exactly.
We will randomly pick one. Whatever you get is what you get.
Exactly. And like people just like kind of forget. Like, I always think about this every day. Like, back then when I was a kid, I never saw that many LGBT books. I've never seen that many LGBT films. They didn't have that many. And if there were, they're very hard to find. They're very hidden, or it's just hard to reach out to. And then while in a country that's apparently supposed to be very conservative,
they're everywhere. They're all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because like it's very interesting to think about. I think about it all the time because like now when I am able to like read a lot of fiction material that has gay relationships, lesbian relationships, transgender characters, as well as non-binary characters and etc. Like, whoa, there's more coming. I feel like the more we push, the more we persist, the more we discuss, the talk about it, the more higher ups will be like, okay, maybe we should make some, maybe we'll do more, and the more you'll get. And that's why I really appreciate Thai BLs, because like it's a great, there's some great stories that I can make people that usually wouldn't watch same-sex relationships actually watch, you know. And they'll understand the story, and we can discuss it, and we can talk about it, and then slowly it starts to become like, you know, why doesn't America have more films and stuff like produced faster, that as fast as like other countries, you know?
That's always been a mystery to me, because I was just like I was, the last thing I could really think of that was like big in the news and was gay was really like a few cartoons like Steven Universe and like Korra. But like really when you think about like the broad picture, it's just like that was years ago at this point. Like what has really happened recently? Where
Yeah. Okay. So one really good show that absolutely normalizes it and has same-sex relationships as well as characters that are into the same gender. Loud House on Nickelodeon.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that one up, because I remember watching the episode, and at this point I didn't even know that it was supposed to happen, where the sister left a love letter for her friend. That's a girl. I believe, and I remember watching that and I was like, wait a minute. Is that
am I on the right channel? What's going on here?
Yes, and that there, the sense of relief I felt, like I was so ecstatic, because like I was like, whoa, this is so rare, and like it just felt really well placed. And compared to a lot of like sorry, that's my mom.
It's okay.
So compared to like often like others where it's very randomly placed. For example, Voltron.
Voltron. I was just talking about Voltron. Because I was like, we had such like, okay, yeah, we can debate that he was gay the whole time. Yeah, because like, you know, being gay isn't like some kind of like, he doesn't have to, you know, this or anything. He can be, you know, any kind of man and be gay. But just to throw that in last almost what the second to last season, like the last episode of that season or something like that. And it was just so just like we could have really focused a lot more on that relationship because we focused on some other people's backstories, and then his was just like, all right, this happened, and when he got back, he was dead.
There was no depth. It was very randomly placed, and it felt like a slap to the face when I saw it because it felt like, there's your gay rep. Now eat it and be gone. That's what it felt like. And one thing that really frustrated me was their advertising campaign on how it looked very queer themed, and then they pulled what they did on those seasons, right? And that right there was just definition of queer baiting. Exactly. And so I was like, ugh, why is it such a very big debate in American soil to have LGBT relationships in shows? For example, She-Ra, another one where I've heard the creators or had to like literally like fight to be able to have the two women in a relationship or like each other, you know? And it just is, it's always what I think about, like, okay, to this day, you have to like really fight about having same-sex relationships and stuff. That's why like BL and GL content, it's very, very well like normal in a sense.
Yeah, I like
have
that.
the stories and they exist.
And I think some of it is like, especially with, I think it's the way Americans and more Asian cultures view cartoons and animation. Over here, cartoons is for children. Like, you know, most people aren't really they think most people aren't really watching cartoons. Cartoons are for children, yada yada yada. So in their heads, you're like, oh, we can't put gay stuff in the cartoons. Then the kids will turn gay, and it's just like, But over in Asia, like just because it's animated, like there's adult animation. Like they clearly have like a definition of this is adult animation, this is a child's animation. Like, but I'm still gonna watch it. This is entertainment for me. This isn't like I'm watching like some cartoons on Saturday morning. Like it's just so I think that's why they're able to get away with like some more because you can animate something and be like, this is for even if you're still mad about it being for children, you can still be like, this is for adults too. So why But over here is like, this is a cartoon, it's for children. We can't have any LGBT content in it because the kids will see and they will turn gay.
Oh yeah, that was what happened with Loud House, because I've seen actually relatives tell me like, y'all better not be watching that because they have two dads in there, and I don't want my kids to see it, and I don't want you to tell kids to see it. And I'm like, screw you. When I'm babysitting your kids, they're gonna watch Loud House, and like, so yeah, like wow. This conversation got deeper than I thought it would.
No, it's okay. But, like that's why we started this podcast, because this is conversations that we had with each other.
Are there some stories that you don't really get the hype about? You're not really sure why people like it?
I feel like if I said something, I'd start a war. There's one actually that I will openly say, because it's pretty privileged. Yours to Claim. Have you guys heard of that one?
We were just talking about it because we like Kane, but we don't like the main couple. So
I was about to drop it, but Kane saved it. I was about to drop it.
That's the story I'm out there telling people. It's pretty privileged because the art is gorgeous, but it's very out of place and randomized for me because Kane, I love Kane. He's a sweetheart. He's a puppy, but where did he come from? He came out of nowhere.
Yep.
And Yahi is a bitch. A fucking bitch. Like the only reason why he's getting hype is because he's hot and he's rich.
Exactly. That's what I was like. I read it because I thought he was a pretty character. And then as soon as I started reading, I was like, why are y'all simping over this man? And then Kane comes in like, so this is who we should be simping for. He's hot and he's nice.
I know. And people were like, oh, I hate Kane because of that one panel where he was like glaring at Yahi. But who would not glare at that bitch?
I'm the same way. I was like, go Kane, like get yourself in there. He was thinking,
break that up.
He is like, yeah, break them up, because as it stands now, it's just a relationship between Yahi. I'm really bad at pronouncing names, by the way. And the main character is just, I can't. I was just like, how is this? This can't continue. Surely, no one's reading this and being like, this is a great couple. I like them. I can't wait till they officially become a real thing.
You'd
And
be
then I'm just over here,
surprised.
just like this is going on the drop list. This is because it was one like I kind of like love or hate, where it's just like it's pretty. I say I'm gonna drop it. I keep coming back for no reason, like no reason. I'm not interested in this story. I just kind of
It's
want to see it.
kind of like Obey Me. Just I
Wait,
kept coming
wait.
back, and I don't know why.
That is like, oh god, that one. Is that, well, I sometimes mix it up with the game.
Yeah,
It's
no.
the crazy one, right?
Mhm.
Oh gosh, that
The
one.
one that wanted to be killing stalking but did not know how to do that.
It felt like a parody. Honestly, oh baby, the one only good thing I've seen in that story was they had a trans character and didn't make it weird. Like it
But that was
wasn't.
I like that aspect, but at the same time, nothing to do with the fact that she's trans. Why was she there? Why was she
Yeah.
there?
Why was she there? Where did she come from?
Like, I don't get me wrong, I love the trans representation, but why was she there in the first place?
Oh yeah, like how did she get kidnapped and everything? Like I think okay, that story was like, I read through it. I know what happened. I know what happened in the beginning. I know what happened in the end. But everything in the middle is a blur. And everything that traumatically happened, my brain shut it out. Like it would, unless like when somebody was like the pen scene or the sushi scene, I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't remember that. And
It's like a fever dream.
Yeah. And then I would go back and I'm like, oh, that's what y'all be talking about.
Oh, that story is so. I remember reading that, and I think like I left like the longest snap on Sophia's phone, just like, what the hell did I just read? This was so stupid. I don't understand anything that happened. There was no story. This was just things happening, and then it just ended.
The whole memory loss and everything. I was so confused.
I was so confused because my thing is like, I know at the end she posted like it's supposed to be extra chapters, but it's like their backstory, and it makes zero sense to me why she posted those afterwards when they should have been in the story, because it probably would have helped the story make just a little bit more sense. Not a lot, but just a little bit.
Exactly. And like I felt like it was just more like of a joke story that they made, honestly. Like I was so confused reading that. And then Obey Me, the kidnapper, he looks like a Walmart L from Death Note.
I know it's literally the same font. It's just something's off about him.
It's like, copy my homework, but don't make it look too suspicious. No, and then like we have a theory that like she was writing it, and like by like not episode, but like by chapter like 2 or 3, they were probably getting backlash, and she was probably like, y'all hold on, give me a second, it's gonna pop off, hold on. And like more chapters come out and everybody's dragging it. She was like, I just gotta finish this real quick, and like
let me just
like, all right, end.
Oh my god.
I just like that Obey Me is just actively one that everyone's kind of like, we don't understand why we all read it. We just kind of did.
We did. Oh yeah. Oh, I will never forgive TikTok if they decide to make that a blown up meme like they did with Killing Stalking. I swear.
No.
I'm glad. It's just
but at
like
least Killing
talked
Stalking
about
was
it.
good content.
Yeah.
Except for the last couple chapters.
We don't have to get into that because we are still mad about it.
Good story, but the memes are a little bit ridiculous. I'm just glad Obey Me was just kind of swept under the rug. You know, it's just like we all.
It's like the actual people who read Yaoi, we were just like, let's make sure the normies don't see this.
Don't recommend it.
Let's don't recommend this. Let's not put this.
It's like a really poor Netflix show.
All right. Let's see. Next, we're gonna start getting into why did you start making TikToks? Was it just like a curiosity thing? Like,
okay,
let's see how this goes.
interestingly enough, like my sister made me download TikTok. She was like tired of sending me TikToks and I wouldn't watch it. And so I was like, okay, I don't get the hype. I don't get it. And then around December of 2019, I was like, okay, I'll download it. And then I was like, let me just post something. And so the first ever post I ever did was something stupid. It was recommending an anime website. And then that popped off. And then I was like, ooh, let me post more. And then it was me making a miniature BTS album crafting, and then I don't know how it like switched up and suddenly I'm talking about BL mangas. I really don't know. I think one of the first couple of posts were more of the stupid BL mangas I read that made me question society, and it was just like making jokes out of those, and people came after me, and I never understood why people were like, oh, reading BL is bad if you're a woman. And I was very confused because I was like, I'm reading it for the story. I don't know what y'all talking about. I'm reading it to clown it. Like, that's it. Those comments don't bother me because at the end of the day, I know I'm supporting my LGBT community in the real world, you know? And then instead of like fighting on the internet. And then I was like, ooh, people, and then it just became like recommending anime. I never really understood how it blew up. Like, I think one of the posts that actually blew up and then really contracted fast was when I had to private it because I didn't know at the time that some websites, you know, shouldn't be mentioned, you know? But it was the manga about a guy who likes to work in a garden, and the melanin beauty that was in there. It was just me being so excited over how soft and gentle the story is. And it just popped off. I honestly to this day do not understand why some of my TikToks blow up. I'm just like, I look stupid. But yeah, like I still am actually sometimes not sure how to answer that. But I think also another reason was like I feel like I was one of the first couple of TikTokers that ever brought BL onto the app. Yeah. Because I don't think I've seen many TikTokers talk about BL when at the almost a year ago when I started. And right now I'm so happy because there's a lot more, and there's a lot of guys that are also posting like that's fantastic. I want to see more men talk about BL. And like some of them, they would DM me and they'd be like, oh, because of you, you know, I feel more comfortable about talking about it and I can actually post, and they make fantastic content as well, and it's fantastic. I'm like, oh my god, yes.
Yeah, because I feel like when we first got on TikTok, we were like watching like whatever, like we had looked up the BL tag just because we wanted to see recommendation things because we think they're very funny most of the time because it's usually like the most popular story and they're like, oh, recommendations, like most underrated stories, and it's like that's number one right now.
Recycled list.
But we would watch that and it would just be like the same video. It'd just be like pictures of something. Like you were like you and I don't know her name, but she has a shortcut white girl.
Wagyu beef?
Her video. That might be her. Does she like One Piece?
Yep. That's her.
Wagyu beef. Yeah.
Y'all were like the first two because like we literally sent each other like the same video because we were just like, I like people who can get the humor out of BO.
Yes. Go in depth, not just put like a scenario of photos. Like I think maybe that's probably why, because I talk about it and I bring up some points, or I'm just simping.
And sometimes simping works. That's why there's K-pop TikTok.
I remember when I was like trying to make TikToks, I was trying to stick to what everyone else was doing. And I was like, I'm bored. Why am I making TikToks that literally like just the most basic trends in anything? I was like, this is so boring. And I was like, wrap it up straight TikTok. I was like, I was just ready to get onto the right TikTok. That's when I started like posting stuff about BL and anime too, and I was just like, I make more friends because of that. So
yes, I've made so many amazing friends. Personally, like I have a very, very bad difficulty in connecting with people and like answering messages. Period. So like being able to see them like on the For You page talk about BL, it's fantastic. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a very wholesome community. There are sometimes some people that make me question BL TikTok, but there's also that side of BL TikTok where it's great. There's some posts on BL TikTok that I am oftentimes also very uncomfortable with, which is why it keeps me motivated to post at times, because sometimes I feel like just deleting everything and just, you know, giving up and just like resting forever. It's something I can't help. Like I'm always surrounded by, you know, negative thoughts, dark thoughts, but TikTok helps me to not do that when I'm like surrounded by people who really like my content, you know. It gives me motivation. And when I would go on my TikTok feed, there's always people who are either being very fake woke or they are transphobic towards trans males who read BL. There are people who really degrade a story where it makes me uncomfortable on how they talk about it. Because there was one where somebody was like, Painter the Night is so spicy. But in those chapters, when they said spicy, it was not spicy. It was
not
sad.
the spicy chapters. It was
I'm
uncomfortable.
Exactly. Like I personally like calling the character themselves as an individual spicy because they're drawn beautifully, but the actions and activities I don't, because it's not my place to say. That's why I refrain from a lot of, like, you know, terms and stuff unless I know well about them, you know?
Yeah.
So that's when I'm like, BL TikTok, you gotta stop. And there was some posts that are very, very uncomfortable on how they talk about certain scenes in a story. And I don't say anything only because, like, I don't know what to say without, you know, causing a riot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
there's some people that don't really take criticism well, and it's just like, why not? It's just like you said, there's just specific scenes where, like, I'm not gonna sit there and look at every like sexual scene that comes up, and I'm gonna look at it and be like, that's you know, steamy, that's spicy, or anything like that. I'll usually only ever say that to scenes that I know it's just like both parties are consensual, happy, and everything's going right.
yeah, there you go. Like I don't want to say it because it's a very triggering thing, but this is what I saw. This is one of them that I saw about Painter the Night, which is why I kind of like stopped on going on TikTok for like 3 or 4 days, because that really made me uncomfortable. There's some people who don't react well with a certain, like, a certain part, like. And then I know Given TikTok was also kind of scary because, like, they made a lot of like weird suicide jokes.
Yeah.
And I was like, y'all, stop. And you could tell when, like, you can tell when someone's coping and they make a joke, or they don't have that trauma and they're just genuinely being trashy. And so, like, that's why I was very questionable towards some stuff. But overall, it's a great community, and a lot of people are sweet, and a lot of people, you know, will listen and talk about stories. It's just more of the side of TikTok where if it's a story with 3 in a love triangle,
they're gonna fight.
They're gonna fight.
No, since you said that, yeah, I do agree that I think that the good outweighs the bad now on BL TikTok. I see way more videos that I laugh at, that I enjoy, that I actually like, you know, like want to follow the person than I did when I see, like, there was one person, I'm not gonna say their name or anything, but like they were just like, oh, if you like BL, if you say Fudoshi or something like that, you're sexualizing gay men and you're awful. And I was just like, in my head, I just don't see it. It just doesn't click in my head that I'm sexualizing 2 men. One, for a man to say that to a woman as if women aren't sexualized doing anything, literally anything. That sounds weird to me.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of my biggest frustrations, I can't believe I let a non-MLM Japanese person on that app try to tell me what fujoshi means. I also thought fujoshi was negative after hearing so many TikToks that were coming after me the last time. I never used the word myself. I never used it, but people would put that label on you even if you don't use it, you know? So, and when I thought, oh, maybe it is bad because it derives from rotten girl. But when I went onto Twitter, there's a lot of native Japanese speakers that are also in MLM relationships, MLM men that came up and said, please, Westerners, stop belittling and changing the word fujoshi to what it's not, which is, fetishizing. It is the actions of the individual, not the word. I learned so much from that because I can't imagine being a Japanese person who has their language butchered, their entire culture fetishized, and people don't say anything because these colonizers are colonizing them and taking their language and everything and twisting to what it's not. And then I realized I gotta stop letting these white folks tell us what fujoshi means. I don't use the word. I'm not Japanese, so I personally stay away from it because I also do not strictly go by she, her. So fujoshi literally just means women who like reading MLM content. That's all it means in Japan. And yoi and yuri are outdated terms. They're not even used in Japan. That's why when you saw Titan's Bride come out, they didn't call it a yoi anime. They called it a BL animation.
I didn't
all
know
of
that,
the newer
actually.
stuff are BL. It's all BL because every character that's developed now has depth and concept in their stories compared to amateur works back then. And a lot of these creators, people assume they're women, which is another big mistake. A lot of these creators are not out. A lot of these creators are utilizing these stories to be able to tell their stories while not being defamed or tortured by the community. A lot of these people go by they them as well, or they're closeted, but people assume, oh my god, it's women writing for women. No, stop. That is already disgusting in itself. And there's a lot of people who don't want to be educated and want to understand the Japanese background. I'm not Japanese. I have no right to actually define these terms myself. I'm just regurgitating what Japanese MLM have said and sourced. And to us, to Western communities, you know how people be ranting and shit. Oh, BL is not LGBT rep, blah, 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 blah. To you,
but
you
how?
live in a privileged country where you don't have to use BL as your source. But in Japan, it is their LGBT movement. BL is helping them. So what are you gonna do? Tell Japanese people that their Japanese content is not a movement for their Japanese country? A non-Japanese, it is disgusting. And I'm very, very grateful for the Japanese men that came to me and spoke to me and told me. And I actually have a couple Japanese native speaker friends that I've met while working who have came to me and asked me, why are you talking about fujoshi being negative? And I was like, oh, because this and this. And they're like, are you guys homophobic? And I'm like, what do you mean? No. And they're like, then why do people react so badly to BL? Then it hit me. Holy shit. We are so especially westernized communities are so self-centered. They don't try to understand the outside perspective,
Yeah, I think it's more or less because we went about it one way with the LGBT, the way that we've taken I don't want to say taken over, but have fought for our rights and freedoms. They think that it's the only way. They think that that's the right way. And it's in our culture, yeah, that probably worked out the best for us. We have made a lot of progress. That's really good. But for their culture, maybe just putting it into people's minds is what's best for them. Cause half the time you just be when you read those stories, most of the time the ignorance is just that they're just oh, that's weird. I've never seen that before. Why would they do that? It's just once they start getting it, maybe for them it's when you put it in their media, in their culture, that changes people's minds. For us, we had to go out and fight. That's how Westerners, that's how we solve our problems. You see that now with Black Lives Matter. But over there, they're not really that kind of culture necessarily, because they, like, China has been having a lot of riots, yes, but for different things.
Yeah, like each country and each community has their own
Mm-hmm.
way of bringing about LGBT content. Like I know in some like countries where just saying LGBT could literally jeopardize you.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
so while in this country in America you talk about it, you can, and there's laws to protect you, while others they don't protect you, you know.
There's no laws at all.
And so it is just, I just feel so bad for the Japanese community of now, especially like there's a lot of people who say stuff like, oh, I want to move to Japan, oh, because of like like an anime they saw or something. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like Japan is not what you perceive it as because
Yeah.
of a show.
Exactly.
There are issues, there are political issues, there's a lot of trauma in that country in itself. The past is not pretty either. The history books,
Yeah.
whoop.
Like the same
And
for people who like K-pop and are just like, I like K-pop, let me move to Korea.
oh, it
It's
is
like,
the,
you
yeah,
do
and
your
like,
research first. Make sure this is a culture, this is a country that you are okay with, the, the struggles that they have, because like they always say, it's a very conservative country, which you can kind of say for America, but it's like different
yeah, like
amounts of
in America
conservative.
there's conservatives, and then there's an interesting like balance. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like there are laws that will protect us. Hopefully they stay after,
Yeah,
this
exactly.
election. But
Mhm.
like
Go vote.
people gotta like, people need to step into reality sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and understand like not everything is about America, not everything is about you yourself. You have to understand the overall effect of what something does. BL genre has been a movement for Japan, and I respect it in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
BL genre is producing material that Japanese people are able to consume and try, in fact, push normalized content. Like, I don't understand when people are always nitpicking BL and Yoi, most specifically, like, oh, the tropes in here. Yeah, I agree there's bad tropes, but it
Mhm.
isn't only BL and Yoi. If you're going to target a genre, don't be nitpicky. You've got to bring out everything. GL,
Mm-hmm.
there's some really bad stuff in there too. Oh, and then
Yeah.
and hetero ones, the abuse towards women is so normalized in hetero content,
And that's why I
like
don't
in
read it, because
any,
I don't like it. It just makes me so uncomfortable.
Mhm.
yeah, and like in anything. But because it's so normalized, people don't say anything until they see that trope in a BL or GL. Then they're like, oh, this is problematic. But it's not new. It's in some of your top favorite hetero shows, but you guys don't want to acknowledge it. For example, Fire Force is very popular and I like that show, but there is a guy who constantly grabs and gropes a girl when she doesn't want it,
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you're going to be woke, you have to
Be
be
woke
a
to
full
everything.
circle,
Yeah.
And at the
Because
end
of
of the
that
day,
trope.
yeah, at the end of the day, there's
Mhm.
good stories in every genre. It depends on what you find and what you read and how you consume it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know with me, and I know we've talked about this before on here, it's the fact that people just because it's labeled BL, people don't want to watch it, they don't want to read it, but it's like a really good story, and it just makes zero sense to me why you wouldn't want to watch it or read it just for that like one simple thing about it. It
There
is.
you go. That's the homophobia speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people who want to be like, it's not homophobic. It's not homophobic. And I'm just like,
It's
nah,
just my
sweetie.
preference.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say it straight up. It is pretty homophobic to me. It's people who act like that, which is why a lot of productions and everything, they're gonna think it's not gonna be popular. They cancel it. Stars Align, incredible representation.
Oh, Stars
Mm-hmm.
Align
Great
was
anime.
beautiful. They represented they not only possible like gay characters, but they had trans characters, they had non-binary characters. Like they threw that whole pool in. And
Gorgeous.
it's such a beautiful anime, and it's something that I wish more people would watch and pay attention to because there's
Mm-hmm.
so much in there that it just makes me feel like we're getting there. Like we're getting more content, more representation, just not just not just like one thing in one anime. Like you had multiple things in this anime that were explained and talked about.
And you know what was really sad? It got canceled because they thought it wasn't going to be popular. And it was, I didn't even know that until I checked the sources, because I thought it was just a cliffhanger ending and we are going to get a second season. No, it was canceled.
That breaks my heart, because I was waiting for a second season. I was like, this has to come back. There's no reason why it wouldn't come back, because like it's like past the LGBT stuff that they were showing in there as well. They were also showing like so many things like with like mental illness and stuff like that. It was really getting in depth with like so many concepts, and the fact that something like that, something that could promote so many different messages, got canceled. It's wow. Like
that's where it brings in the discussion of like, do you notice how oftentimes anything that's queer, like back then, now it's better, but back then any queer animes or same-sex animes that usually gets more hype or produced or gets more seasons are problematic, controversial ones, because at the end of the day, it's more like, oh, if it's controversial and it's problematic, you're going to have both the good and the bad people who like it, or people who hate it stream it, and it gets that traction. It gets the traction. It gets the money. It gets the reason and ability to be able to produce more. That's what, because you have to think business wise. If you want more good stuff to be produced, we need to hype up the good stuff a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot, because if it's good, if it discusses actual situations and promotes healthy things, it's not going to be that popular. Hetero ones, they're always going to be popular. If it's healthy hets, stupid hets, shit hets, they're going to be popular. And while gay lesbian stories are always on a battlefield, and then you end up getting the bad ones produced or gets more seasons, because they're the ones that both the LGBT, hetero, any community watches, because they want to know what the hell is going on. Why is this existing? And I can name a few, but I'm not going to say. But I think you can get the idea.
Yeah.
But,
I always think of, I also hate that in American media, I don't know if you learned about this yet, Sophia, but we had a class discussion about it, about like the barrier gaze in media. I don't know if you know what that means. It means that basically most of the time the gay person's going to die in the
Attack on Titan.
Ymir.
That I immediately think of Attack on Titan. That was God. And a lot of like American media, it's like, you did your job, you were the token gay, token lesbian,
all right, you can go
token bi, die. That's what happened.
Like I had to stop watching.
Controversial.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I would stop watching Killing Eve because like I was really enjoying the show, and then the gay character he came out. He was gay for 20 minutes, 20 minutes, and then he got stabbed in a club. And I was just like, come on, we are better than this. Why are we like, yeah? Because I had a long debate about this in class because like some people in that class, I do not miss them. But like, my fight was with just like, because like when you really think about it, anything over here, if it's gay, it has to be about the 80s and the AIDS epidemic so they can kill them off. Or it has to be like some sad story where they die at the end because of a hate crime. Or like just all this sad stuff. And I think something I like about BL is that there's so many happy stories. Like when you go down tragedy, yeah, they die. But like that's only when you really go to tragedy.
Exactly. You have a variety. That's why I'm very, very prideful and enjoy reading BL and GL, because I have my variety. While Americans, they either get over hypersexualized pairings or they die, or it's controversial. Period. Like that's what we get. There's actually a really good show on Netflix that I recommend, Hollywood. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, I've been meaning to watch that because, you know, we got color representation and gay representation. So I love it. That's gay and black.
Yes, and it's great. Like that's the type of, if you watch it, you'll know what I mean when I say that's the type of plot I want to see more of. That's the type of concept or more like representation I want to see more of. And like, there's another show I really liked, All American, and
familiar.
there's a queer character. Her name's Coop. I think it was Coop, and she's lesbian and she's awesome. I love her. Like, I want to be able to see characters that actually live more than 3 episodes, you know?
Exactly. Make it to the end of the series. Can they be in the last episode too? Like,
yeah.
And it's always something stupid too. It's like every other character is fine. Every other character is always in the shows where, like, when you're watching like something supernatural or something like, thriller or something, you expect somebody to die. It's always like when you're watching like some calm romance and it's just like, all right, now kill the gay. We got to get them out real quick.
And that's why, because like, if you think about it, like in BL and GL, you have your content produced regardless, right? And yeah, there's still struggles of getting good animations, but overall, there's that really sad aspect that I was thinking about, that heterosexuals are always going to be considered as a priority for people. And heterosexual stories, mangas, animes, shows, TVs, movies, they're always worried about what hetero people will think. And that's why it leads to people like LGBT people, myself, where I was like, maybe I shouldn't complain. Maybe having these 2-3 LGBT characters is enough. No, we don't have enough. I'm not going to be apologetic. We do not have enough. I want more, until to the point where it's like, I am so normalized to. Like, I don't have to feel there's an actual gay character, there's a lesbian. No, it's more like, finally, like, oh, I feel at ease. Like how I read BL and GL, it's more like, it's another story to pick up. Yay, another story to pick up. Because I don't, when I'm looking through like Lesin comics, Tappy Tuna, and etc., it's not like I have to dig through the ends of the earth or anything. It's more like, ooh, another story I can pick up. While in a lot of like cartoons and Americanized, westernized stuff, it's like, a gay character? Exactly. And hopefully it'll be the same with anime, where in anime it's not like a BL anime. No, it's gonna be like, ooh, cool,
another new anime. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions?
I think that's it.
Oh wow.
I feel like, I'm so sorry if I like talked in tangents, but I feel like this was a great discussion.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. It extended more of what we had talked about before when we were talking about we were trying to like go through like the different types of like BL tags like Shonenai and Bara, but then we also started getting into the fact that America just doesn't have enough representation and stuff. And we definitely wanted to have an episode where we talked more about how BL is just more than just two guys in a relationship. Like, it's
exactly
so much more than that. Okay.
It's so much more than that. And that's why, like, being able to talk to individuals who are able to discuss, understand, both in like the deep aspect of certain stories, or to just clown it, like Obey Me. We clown it.
Exactly. Like, some stories just fun to just realize how stupid it is. But like, I think the beauty is, especially like if it was more open, like how we're having a conversation now, we're talking about Obey Me. We had not once talked about the gay relationship in that story. It was
like, it's just the idea, the
relationship, I should say.
Yeah, like it has its atrocities, if I said that correctly, atrociousness, where you have that some sort of drama that you can actually talk about, you know? That's why I really like BL and GL, because I'm able to see same-sex characters and actually talk about it. There is a variety where I don't have to dig, while other stories and other platforms I have to dig, you know? Be it like, for example, gay novels, lesbian novels are still very minimal in America. I used to think in the back of my head, it's so little, I could actually collect them all. So let me just buy them all. And I did. And then now there's more being produced, slowly more being produced. There's no room for gatekeeping. There's no room for arguing right now. We want to stop homophobes. We want more stories produced, good, bad, whatever. Whoever makes it, straight man, gay woman, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it's content, it's produced well, and it's something you can actually discuss and talk about. There's going to be bad stuff, there's going to be good stuff. What matters is you have a variety. It is
I agree
out
with
there.
you there.
Just
Because
like
that comes in the case with like a lot of things. Is like we're all people of POCs in some form or fashion. Even the same thing for that. It's just like it took forever just to have like an all black show. So like Shirley, because they were at one point, it was like number one news that there was an interracial kiss on TV. So like,
oh my goodness,
it's just like things are going slowly, but at the same time, that was the past when media was much slower. This
yes,
is the future where we have something new every day. You don't even have to wait to publish a book. You can put a book out online. It's fine. You don't have to like go through a big company to make a show. You can essentially make a show yourself. We're making a podcast and we just bought a little bit of equipment and we're using what we have. Back then you would probably need like a whole thing because you can only really use radio. So it's like you have the technology. So what's holding you back from just writing the story and putting it out yourself?
exactly.
And
And like
yeah.
be confident in yourself, make a story, and it's gonna be hard. Sometimes it'll start off bad. I know, I've been through that before. And like it's gonna be shit at first, but you'll improve, you'll learn, you'll grow, and you fundamentally make something even better, and everyone's probably gonna enjoy. Like what matters is that we have more content. Of course, there's some things where at least if you can educate yourself before making stuff, like for example, cultural backgrounds or anything that involves like racial history and stuff, you want a good source and background story. Because I've seen some mangas where they didn't and it was bad, and I've seen some like fanfics and stuff where they just poorly represented certain things. But
yeah.
you learn, you get educated, you make a story, you grow, and you make fundamentally a very beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, that's why you need people reading this kind of stuff. Because my issue with some things, especially like black movies or movies that are targeted to black people, you could tell nobody black wrote it.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh my
like
god.
that's why I want like more LGBT content, because sometimes you can tell nobody LGBT had anything to
Oh,
do with
okay,
the
yeah,
writing of that
that I
character.
agree with. That I agree with. Like, usually it's really obvious in like American media. It's so painful. You know how like I saw a TikTok on this and it was so accurate. Where this guy was like, you know how they use AAV, like they make their gay men use a lot of AAV, and they have no personality. It's just hunty slay, and that's
And that's it. That's all they know because they watch one episode of RuPaul.
oh.
That's it.
And
And it's
like,
just like, or like when you watch, like I was watching a video. She watches like bad movies. I like watching her videos. Kenny JD. She was watching Ma, which was supposed to be like a horror movie, had a black, main character. There was a black guy in the show. I mean, one of the black characters in the show. And I was just, even she was just like, who was black wrote this character? Because the stuff he is saying, it's just nothing that we would actually say. It is not our lingo. It is not like I'm just like, you always know it's more authentic when you could tell, like, even if like let's say I wrote for a Hispanic character. I have a lot of Hispanic friends. I grew up around a lot of Hispanic friends. I feel like I would know a little bit more of a grasp, but I would still go out of my way to ask a Hispanic person, hey, can you read after this character and see if it's accurate? And I feel like a lot of them are just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna write this character how I think Hispanic people are. And it goes with the same with like any race or any like sexual identity.
exactly. Yes, I agree with you. It's like, that Disney movie Mulan.
Oh,
How bad it was.
so
Oof.
bad. You took away everything that was good of the original Mulan.
It was really, really, really sad how they had the Mulan movie on Disney Plus, but didn't even have Chinese subtitles.
Did they
I
really?
They didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, because that whole movie was made by white folks. They were like, yeah, we got
Oh
an Asian cast, but everybody behind the scenes are white.
yeah. That's why I'm like, I'm tired of some of y'all snow roaches, man. Because oh, but Yeah, and say I agree with you. Same thing with like sexuality. Like, you could tell like back then a lot of the tropes in BL was really bad and how it was written. Like now, so much better. And oftentimes, you could tell they're more educated on things now. For example, a really good story, I would say you could see a very, very reflective time change from a very old problematic past to now is Hidoku Shinaide, or Don't Be Cruel. It started off very rough, but it started off in a time period where oftentimes a lot of that material was normalized.
Yeah,
but
I love that story.
You can see how the story grew, and you can literally tell the creator probably was like, yeah, wake up call. We gotta improve. We gotta.
That's one of the few stories where sorry, I don't know the character. I've read a lot. I'm bad at Japanese names. The top
Maya.
He actually acknowledges that he did that and feels grief that he did that. Like he did that horrible thing. And like when I read that, I was like honestly, like I had to stop what I was doing. I was like, did I like for real? Like apologizing and like feeling grief and like because you were such an awful person in the beginning. Because those are one of those stories where I'm just like, I love this story when you skip like the first 5 chapters.
Same thing with there's another one. I mean, there's some parts of it I still, Dakarete no Otoko. I saw the animation.
Nope.
And the animation was okay. Well, it's another BL like animation. The BL animation, I saw that first because I didn't want to read the manga first because I know the manga is gonna be different. So I was like, okay. So I watched the animation, and the animation was good. It wasn't bad. And then I read the manga. Ooh, that first chapter was bad, like shit, like trash. And then the much more recent chapters are so much better. So you could also tell there was a time shift in that too, which I really appreciate because it was problematic in Dakarete no Otoko or Don't Be Cruel in those older chapters, but it's a great reflection of seeing how these years have changed and how much of a big shift there was and growth, progressiveness, which is fantastic. I like seeing progressiveness in a story.
I love it.
And that's what we did.
Alrighty, so we're just going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you, Janna, for joining us as well today. Had an amazing conversation.
Yes.
So do make sure to follow us on all our social medias. As of right now, it's still just TikTok and Twitter under BLteatime. And
you can follow our Patreon at BLteatime. It will be in the description below.
Okay. And then also just make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit our notification buttons to make sure you're notified for our next episode, which is every week on Mondays at 3:15.
And Janna, do you want to put your plugs in?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, this was fun. Very good conversation. I'm lgbtanimes on TikTok, Twitter. Twitter is chaos. Don't even look at it. And Tumblr. Is that what I have? And Instagram. Did I say Instagram?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, and Instagram. lgbtanimes. It's all lgbtanimes.
Okay.
And yeah, everything is fantastic, great aesthetic on those. Not Twitter though. Twitter is trash. Like it's just me fighting. And
Twitter is toxic. I will say that. I can't get on it for days. But it was a great having you, and if you ever want to come back, just let us know.
Yeah, just shoot me another message anytime. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.